Have you ever wondered how people learned before schools existed? This question takes us back to the dawn of civilization, when education was a far cry from what we know today. In the ancient cradle of civilization, Sumer, the earliest forms of education began. It was an era when knowledge was a privilege, a luxury, not a right. Education was not for everyone but reserved for the elite, those being groomed to become scribes. These individuals held a special place in society, acting as intermediaries between the gods and people, and were responsible for recording history, laws, and administrative accounts. Traveling further along the Nile, we see the great civilization of Egypt, where education was also a privilege of the elite. Here too, scribes were highly revered. Young boys, often from noble families, would enter scribe school at a tender age, learning intricate hieroglyphs and complex mathematical calculations. They were the record keepers, the historians, the architects, and the doctors of their time. Now let's set sail across the Mediterranean to ancient Greece, where the concept of education took a philosophical turn. Unlike Sumer and Egypt, where the focus was on practical skills like writing and arithmetic, the Greeks emphasized the cultivation of the mind and the spirit. Here, philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle began to challenge and shape young minds, encouraging them to question, to think, to debate. Lessons were often conducted in open forums, under olive trees, or within the confines of the famous Academy of Plato. Knowledge was passed down orally, through dialogues and debates, a stark contrast to the written traditions of the Sumerians and Egyptians. So, in the beginning, education was a privilege of the elite, primarily concerned with producing scribes and philosophers. It was a world where the written word was sacred, where knowledge was power, and where the thirst for understanding was the driving force behind the evolution of education. As societies evolved, so did their approach to education. But how did the Middle Ages and Renaissance shape learning? Let's journey back to the Middle Ages. During this time, monastic schools were the main source of education, becoming the cornerstones of learning. These schools were often attached to monasteries or cathedrals, and their curriculum was primarily religious. The language of instruction was Latin, the lingua franca of the church, and the language of the educated class. This period laid the foundation for a structured education system, even though it was accessible only to a privileged few. However, education in the Middle Ages was not just about theology. As time progressed, schools started to teach law and medicine, as these were seen as practical applications of knowledge. Some even began to explore the natural world, laying the groundwork for what would later become the field of science. As we transition from the Middle Ages into the Renaissance, there is a marked shift in educational focus. The Renaissance, a time of rebirth and enlightenment, saw the rise of the humanist movement. Education was no longer just about religious instruction. The humanists believed in the value of a well-rounded education, one that included the arts, sciences, and humanities. They emphasized the importance of critical thinking, creativity, and the exploration of the human condition. This shift towards a broader curriculum was revolutionary. The inclusion of arts and sciences in education meant that learning was not just about rote memorization, but about understanding the world and our place in it. The humanities, with their focus on human culture and experience, promoted empathy and understanding, essential qualities for a harmonious society. The Renaissance also saw the invention of the printing press, which made books more accessible and affordable. This had a profound impact on education, as it allowed knowledge to be disseminated more widely, leading to an explosion of learning and intellectual exchange. The Middle Ages and Renaissance saw education evolve from a religious focus to a more rounded curriculum, sowing the seeds for our modern education system. The Industrial Revolution not only changed our economy but also our education. But how? Let's take a step back to the late 18th century, when the world was on the brink of a major transformation. The Industrial Revolution was churning, steam engines were hissing, and factories were springing up. As the economy shifted from agriculture to industry, a new type of workforce was required. One that could read instructions, perform detailed tasks, and understand complex machinery. This need for a more educated workforce led to a significant change in the education system. Before the Industrial Revolution, schooling was mainly for the elite. But the growing industrial economy needed educated workers, and this need couldn't be filled by the privileged few. So, the concept of public schooling was introduced. Schools were no longer a luxury for the upper class, but a necessity for the masses. This period also saw the introduction of standardized education. With thousands of children now attending schools, there was a need for uniformity. Standardized education ensured that every child, regardless of their social status, received the same quality of education. Subjects like mathematics, science, and language became the core of the curriculum, aimed at developing literacy and numeracy skills that were vital for the industrial workforce. But how was it ensured that every child received an education? Well, this is when compulsory education laws came into play. These laws made it mandatory for children to attend school, ensuring that every child had access to education. These laws were initially met with resistance, but over time, they became widely accepted and have shaped our education system to this day. The Industrial Revolution changed the face of education, making it accessible to all. It introduced the concept of public schooling, established standardized education, and enforced compulsory education laws. This shift towards literacy and numeracy has played a pivotal role in shaping the world as we know it. The Industrial Revolution brought education to the masses, creating a standardized system that is familiar to us today. So the next time you sit in a classroom or study from a textbook, remember the Industrial Revolution and its profound impact on education. The dawn of the 21st century brought with it a new era of learning. How has technology reshaped our classrooms? Let's take a moment to explore. In the early days of the 21st century, computers and the internet were still seen as novelties in many classrooms. However, as technology advanced, it quickly became clear that these tools had the potential to transform the educational landscape. Computers started to become commonplace in classrooms, and the internet opened up a world of resources that were previously unimaginable. From interactive whiteboards to digital textbooks, technology began to reshape how we teach and learn. Online research replaced hours spent in libraries, and students could now access a wealth of knowledge at their fingertips. And it wasn't just about access to information. Technology also began to change the way we process and understand that information. As the 21st century progressed, so too did the ways in which we utilize technology in education. The rise of digital resources has not only made learning more interactive, but also more personalized. Adaptive learning technologies now allow for personalized learning paths, taking into account each student's strengths, weaknesses, and pace of learning. And then, the world faced the COVID-19 pandemic. Schools around the globe were forced to close their doors, and education had to shift online almost overnight. This was a true testament to the power of digital education. Teachers began to deliver lessons over video calls, and students submitted assignments electronically. Despite its challenges, this period underlined the resilience and adaptability of digital learning. But the impact of technology on education extends beyond the classroom. The internet has made it possible for anyone, anywhere, to learn anything. From online courses to educational YouTube channels, learning is now more accessible than ever. The digital age has revolutionized education, making learning more accessible than ever before. It's an exciting time to be a learner, with the world's knowledge just a click away. The possibilities are endless, and we can't wait to see what the future holds. What does the future hold for education? How will we learn in an increasingly digital world? As we stand at the precipice of the unknown, these questions resonate with profound significance. Imagine a classroom without walls, where lessons are tailored to each individual, taking into account their unique strengths, weaknesses, interests, and learning styles. This is personalized learning, a potential future trend in education. With the help of artificial intelligence, we could see a shift from the traditional one-size-fits-all model to a more student-centric approach. Artificial intelligence, or AI, once the stuff of science fiction, is now a tangible reality with the potential to revolutionize education. It can help identify gaps in a student's understanding, adapt curriculum to individual learning styles, and provide instant feedback. But with great power comes great responsibility. Questions about data privacy, accessibility, and the role of human teachers in an AI-dominated landscape are challenges that we must grapple with. Now picture yourself exploring ancient ruins, dissecting a virtual frog, or walking on the surface of Mars, all from the comfort of your home. This is the promise of virtual reality, another potential game-changer in education. It can bring abstract concepts to life, provide immersive experiences, and make learning more engaging. However, cost and accessibility could pose significant hurdles. In the future, we may also witness a shift in what we learn. With the rapid pace of technological advancements, the skills required for the jobs of tomorrow are continually evolving. Education systems may need to focus more on creativity, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence, skills that machines can't replicate. As we look to the future, one thing is certain: education will continue to evolve, shaped by technological advancements and societal needs. The classrooms of tomorrow may look vastly different from those of today, but at its core, the purpose of education remains the same: to empower individuals, foster curiosity, and cultivate a lifelong love for learning.